Sweetheart, use Dad's card. He's got about $95,000 on it. My son Travis said it like he was doing his wife Amber a favor, handing her my credit card across my own kitchen table. I stood there, invisible in my own home, watching my only child treat my life savings like his personal piggy bank. Then came the demand. From now on, your paycheck goes into my account. You don't need money anyway. I agreed quietly, nodding like the fool he thought I was. That night, they'd come for their free dinner like always. They'd walk through my door and scream, because everything would be gone. That Tuesday morning started like any other morning in the 2 years since I'd buried my wife Margaret. I woke up in the house we'd shared for 37 years, made coffee in the kitchen where we'd raised our son, and stared at the empty chair where she used to sit reading the newspaper. The loneliness was a physical thing, pressing down on my chest until I could barely breathe. Travis had been so attentive after the funeral. "Dad, you shouldn't be alone," he'd said, pulling me into a hug that felt genuine. His wife Amber had squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. "We'll take care of you," she'd promised. And like a fool, I'd believed them. It started small. "Can you cover my car payment this month, Dad?" Just this once. Business is slow. I'd written the check for $743 without hesitation. My son needed help. That's what fathers do. Then it was Amber needing money for groceries. Then Travis's credit card bill. Then car repairs. Then medical expenses that I later discovered were cosmetic procedures for Amber. 6 months after Margaret died, Travis asked for my bank card PIN. "Just for emergencies, Dad. What if something happens and I need to help you?" I'd given it to him, still swimming in grief, still believing my son loved me more than money. I'm a retired civil engineer. I spent 40 years designing infrastructure for the city of Columbus, Ohio. Roads, bridges, water systems. I built things that lasted. I planned everything meticulously. Numbers don't lie. Engineering teaches you that. So when I started noticing withdrawals from my account that I didn't make, I documented them. When Travis borrowed money and never paid it back, I kept records. When he started demanding rather than asking, I started recording our conversations. Ohio is a one-party consent state. I only needed my own permission to record. My pension from the city plus Social Security gave me $4,800 a month. Not a fortune, but comfortable. Enough to live on, take care of my house, maybe take a trip once a year like Margaret and I used to dream about. My savings from 40 years of careful work totaled $95,000. Not rich, but secure. Safe. Protected. Except I wasn't protected from my own son. The breaking point came 3 months ago. Travis didn't ask anymore. He demanded, "I need $2,500 by Friday. Amber needs a new purse. You wouldn't understand, Dad. It's an investment piece." I'd watched him take my debit card from my wallet without permission. Watched Amber raid my refrigerator like it was a free grocery store. Watched them pull up in their BMW that my money had helped purchase, park in my driveway, and walk into my home like they owned it. Last month, Travis sat me down at my own kitchen table and told me he was taking over my finances. "You're getting older, Dad. You need help managing your money. You might make mistakes. Let me handle everything." And then yesterday morning, he demanded my entire pension be deposited into his account. "You don't need money anyway," he'd said. "We'll take care of all your expenses. Just like we've been doing." That's when I knew. My son wasn't going to stop until he'd bled me dry, until I had nothing left, until I was completely dependent on him, powerless, with no escape. So I'd made a plan. A good plan. An engineer's plan. I'd spent 6 months preparing, moving my money to new banks, putting my furniture in storage, changing passwords, documenting everything, building my case piece by piece like I used to build bridges, checking every calculation, making sure the foundation was solid. This morning, I'd emptied my house. Every stick of furniture, every dish, every towel, every memory. Professional movers had loaded it all into trucks and driven it to a climate-controlled storage unit across town, paid for a year in advance. The house echoed when I walked through it, bare walls and empty rooms where a life used to be. Now I sat on the hardwood floor of my empty living room, waiting. It was 6:30 in the evening. Travis and Amber would arrive in 15 minutes for their free Tuesday dinner, expecting me to serve them pot roast or chicken or whatever they'd demanded I cook this week. Instead, they'd find nothing. I heard the BMW pull into my driveway at exactly 6:45. Travis never came early and never came late. Everything had to be on his schedule. I heard car doors slam. Heard Amber's high-pitched laugh at something Travis said. Heard their footsteps on my front porch. The door opened. They never knocked anymore. Then they screamed. I looked up from my spot on the floor, trying to appear defeated and broken. It wasn't hard. Part of me was broken. The part that had believed in my son. What happened? Amber shrieked, her voice bouncing off the bare walls. Were you robbed? Where's everything? Where's the TV? Where's the furniture? Travis stood frozen in the doorway, his face pale. His eyes darted around the empty rooms, calculating, already trying to figure out what this meant for him, not concern for me, not worry about my well-being, just cold calculation about his access to my money. I lost everything, I said quietly, letting my voice shake. Bad investment. A man called me. He seemed trustworthy. I gave him access to my accounts. It's all gone. The $95,000. My pension for the past 3 months. Everything. The words hung in the air like smoke. I watched them land. Watched Travis's face go from pale to red. Watched Amber's mouth drop open. What are you talking about? Travis's voice was sharp, angry. You couldn't have. I just checked your balance yesterday. There was $94,712 in that account. And there it was. The confession I needed. He'd been monitoring my accounts like they were his own, checking my balance, tracking my money, not as a concerned son, but as a thief keeping inventory. He cleaned me out this morning, I said, letting tears form in my eyes. Real tears, but not for the reason they thought. I'm ruined. I have nothing left. Travis crossed the room in 3 long strides and grabbed my arm, yanking me to my feet. His fingers dug into my flesh hard enough to bruise. How could you be so stupid? So irresponsible. That money was supposed to take care of us. You promised you'd help us. Not help you, I thought. Take care of me. But I said nothing. Amber was pacing, her designer heels clicking on the bare floor. Those shoes had cost me $800. She'd demanded them for her birthday. What about the house? She demanded. You still have the house. This place has to be worth, what, $450,000? $500,000? I had to put it up as collateral for a loan last week. I lied smoothly. That's gone too. They're foreclosing. I have 30 days before I lose it. The look on Travis's face wasn't grief or sympathy. It was pure rage. Rage that his meal ticket was gone. Rage that his inheritance had evaporated. Rage that his father had failed in his primary purpose, being an ATM machine. Who was this scammer? Travis demanded. What was his name? What bank? When exactly did this happen? I want details, all of them. Now. I gave him a story I'd prepared. A man named Roger Wallace. Called claiming to be from the IRS. Said I owed back taxes. Scared me into transferring money. I made it detailed enough to sound real, vague enough to be unprovable. Travis pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. He was trying to access my accounts using the passwords and pins I'd given him months ago. I watched his face change as he realized what I already knew. He was locked out. Every password changed. Every pin reset. His access revoked. You changed everything, he snarled. You locked me out. What are you hiding? The bank made me change everything after the fraud, I said, keeping my voice weak and confused. They said my accounts were compromised. They froze everything while they investigate. I don't understand any of it, Travis. It's all so confusing. Amber had moved to the kitchen, looking in empty cabinets. Where are you even sleeping? She called out. Where's your clothes? Your bed? Everything's gone. I'm staying with Jerry for now, I said, naming my old colleague from the city engineering department. Just came here to meet you both. To tell you what happened. Travis's eyes narrowed. Show me your phone. I want to see call logs, text messages, proof this scammer exists. That's my private property, son, I said quietly. His laugh was ugly. Private property? You just gave away your life savings to a stranger. You can't manage your own affairs. You need help, Dad. Professional help. He pulled up something on his phone and shoved it in my face. It was a document. A petition for guardianship and conservatorship. The words blurred in front of my eyes, but I understood what I was seeing. I contacted an elder law attorney this afternoon, Travis said. I'm filing this tomorrow. You'll be declared incapacitated, unable to manage your own affairs. I'll control everything legally. Your accounts, your house, your medical decisions, everything. Amber nodded, her face a mask of fake concern. It's for your own good, Berkeley. You're clearly not safe making your own decisions. I felt ice water run through my veins. This was worse than I'd anticipated. I'd expected anger, expected threats. But legal guardianship? That was a trap I hadn't fully considered. When did you contact an attorney? I asked carefully. Travis didn't hesitate. This afternoon. Around 3 o'clock. I let that sink in. But Travis, I didn't tell you about the scam until just now. 6:45. How did you know this afternoon that I needed a guardian? I watched him realize his mistake. His face went blank for just a second. Then he recovered. I've been concerned for weeks, Dad. Months, actually. This scam just confirms what I've been worried about. You're losing it. Your mental capacity is declining. I have 48 hours to think about this, Travis said, his voice cold. 48 hours to voluntarily sign over power of attorney to me. If you don't, I file for emergency guardianship. I'll tell the judge about this scam, about how you're living with friends because you lost your house, about how you can't manage basic financial decisions. They'll declare you incompetent. Is that what you want? To be declared incompetent in open court? The threat hung in the air. Amber had moved beside him, a united front. They looked at me like I was already gone, already defeated, already irrelevant. Think about it, Dad, Travis said. But choose wisely, because one way or another, I'm taking control, for your own good. They left together, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the empty house. I heard the BMW start, heard gravel spray as Travis peeled out of my driveway too fast, angry and frustrated that his easy money had disappeared. I sat back down on the floor in my empty living room, alone with the echo of their footsteps. And for the first time since Margaret died, I let myself wonder if I'd made a terrible mistake. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my empty house, sitting on the bare floor with my back against the wall where Margaret's favorite painting used to hang. The moon came through the uncurtained windows, casting shadows across the rooms where we'd lived our entire married life. By morning, I'd made my decision. I had to see this through. There was no turning back now. I drove to my real temporary apartment, not Jerry's house like I'd told Travis. It was a small furnished efficiency I'd rented under a 6-month lease, paid in cash. My furniture from the house was in storage, but I'd kept enough clothes and personal items here to survive. I showered, changed, and tried to eat breakfast. The food tasted like cardboard. My phone rang at 8:30. Travis. We need to talk, he said without preamble. Today. This morning. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. But when I arrived at 10 o'clock, Travis wasn't alone. He'd brought Amber and a man in an expensive suit who introduced himself as Richard Pemberton, attorney at law, specializing in elder care and guardianship proceedings. My stomach dropped. This was an ambush. Mr. Berkeley, Pemberton said, his voice smooth and practiced. Your son has expressed serious concerns about your well-being and your ability to manage your financial affairs. I understand you experienced a significant loss yesterday due to a telephone scam. I maintained my confused elderly man act. Yes, it was terrible. I don't understand how it happened. Pemberton nodded sympathetically. These scammers are very sophisticated. They prey on vulnerable seniors. which is exactly why your son's concerns are valid. You need protection. For the next hour, they interrogated me. Pemberton asked detailed questions about the supposed scam. What time did the man call? What did he say exactly? What bank did I transfer money from? How did I authorize the transfer? Each question was designed to trip me up, to find inconsistencies in my story. I stuck to my script. I'd spent weeks preparing this fictional narrative, but I could see Pemberton wasn't entirely convinced. He was good at his job. Too good. Travis, meanwhile, was getting more aggressive. He demanded to see my phone again, demanded access to my email, demanded I tell him where exactly I'd moved my furniture, which storage company, what location. He wanted the keys to the unit. That's my property, I said firmly. Not for long, Travis shot back. Once I'm your guardian, everything's mine to manage. Pemberton cleared his throat. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Travis. Mr. Berkeley, I want to be direct with you. Your son can file for guardianship with or without your cooperation. But it would be much easier, much less traumatic, if you simply signed a power of attorney voluntarily. You'd retain some autonomy while getting the help you clearly need. It was a reasonable-sounding lie. A power of attorney might seem less restrictive than guardianship, but in practice, it would give Travis the same control. He'd drain my accounts, sell my house, and I'd have no recourse. I need time to think, I said. You have 48 hours, Travis repeated. Then I file. And Dad, I will win. I have documentation of your declining state. I have witnesses who'll testify about your confused behavior. What witnesses? I asked, genuinely curious now. Travis smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You'll see in court. They left me sitting at the coffee shop, my untouched coffee cold in front of me. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called Paula Brennan, the attorney I'd hired 2 months ago. She was expecting my call. Paula was 53, sharp as a blade, and specialized in elder law. But unlike Pemberton, she fought for the elderly, not against them. We met at her office an hour later. He's moving faster than we anticipated, she said after I'd explained the morning's ambush. Guardianship is serious, Berkeley. If he wins, you lose almost everything. Your autonomy, your finances, your ability to make decisions about your own life. And once it's granted, it's incredibly hard to reverse. I have evidence, I reminded her. 6 months of recordings, bank statements showing his withdrawals, a ledger of every dollar he's taken. Paula nodded, but her expression was worried. That's good. But we have to be strategic about when and how we use it. If we show our hand too early, he'll counter. And guardianship proceedings are tricky. The court's primary concern is your well-being. If Travis can convince the judge you're incapacitated, your evidence might not matter. So what do? We file our own motion, Paula said. We go on offense instead of defense. We'll file a complaint for financial exploitation, elder abuse, and seek a restraining order against Travis. We beat him to the courthouse. It was a good plan, but something felt wrong. Travis had been too confident, too prepared, like he'd been planning this for longer than just yesterday. I went to the police department that afternoon, filed a report for financial exploitation. The detective who took my statement was a tired-looking man in his 40s named Detective Marcus Shaw. He listened to my story, took notes, and then delivered the news I'd been dreading. Mr. Berkeley, I understand this is difficult, but you gave your son your PIN. You gave him access to your accounts. You signed for these transactions or authorized them indirectly. Unless we can prove he coerced you or that you were mentally incapacitated at the time, this is a civil matter, family court, not criminal. But he's stolen from me, I protested. $95,000 over 2 years, given to him. Detective Shaw corrected gently. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's legal, or legal enough that prosecuting it would be nearly impossible. You need to pursue this through civil court, get a lawyer, file for financial abuse through Adult Protective Services. I'd already done both those things. But hearing the detective confirm that the criminal justice system wouldn't help was crushing. The system that was supposed to protect people like me had a giant loophole labeled family. I left the police station feeling defeated and went back to my efficiency apartment. That's when I saw the envelope that had been slid under my door. It was a court filing. Travis hadn't waited 48 hours. He'd filed that afternoon for emergency guardianship. But worse, much worse, were the attached affidavits. 3 sworn statements from people claiming they'd witnessed my declining mental capacity. One from my neighbor, Gerald Peterson, claiming he'd seen me leave my stove on multiple times and wander the neighborhood looking confused. Once in my bathrobe at 2 in the afternoon. One from my doctor's office, allegedly from a nurse named Patricia Simmons, reporting that I'd missed multiple appointments and displayed confusion during visits, asking the same questions repeatedly. One from a grocery store manager named Thomas Brickell, claiming I'd tried to pay for groceries with buttons instead of money and had become agitated when corrected. I stared at the documents, my hands shaking. Every single one was a lie. Gerald Peterson barely knew me. We'd waved at each other in passing, but never had a real conversation. I'd never missed a doctor's appointment in my life, and I certainly never tried to pay for groceries with buttons. Travis had fabricated evidence. I immediately called Paula. She arrived at my apartment within 20 minutes, read the affidavits, and her face went hard. "This is fraud," she said flatly. "Perjury in a court filing. Travis just committed a crime. Can we prove it?" I asked. She pulled out her phone. "Let's find out." Over the next 2 hours, Paula contacted all 3 affiants. Gerald Peterson was shocked to learn his name was on a legal document. "I never said any of that," he told Paula on speakerphone. "I barely know Berkeley. He seems fine to me. Normal. Quiet. I have no idea how my name got on that paper." The doctor's office had no record of any nurse named Patricia Simmons. They'd never filed any such report about me. My medical records showed perfect attendance at all scheduled appointments and no notes about confusion or cognitive decline. The grocery store manager, Thomas Brickell, was equally bewildered. "I don't know anyone named Berkeley. I never witnessed any incident like that. This is crazy. Someone forged my name." Paula documented everything. Recorded statements, written confirmations, evidence that Travis's affidavits were complete fabrications. "But," Paula said, her voice heavy, "this doesn't change our immediate problem. The emergency hearing is in 72 hours, Friday afternoon. And even though these affidavits are fraudulent, the judge might still grant temporary guardianship while the investigation proceeds. It's a protective measure. The court errs on the side of caution with elderly individuals." "What does temporary guardianship mean?" I asked, though I already knew the answer would be bad. "It means Travis gets limited control, usually for 60 days, while Adult Protective Services investigates. He'd have access to your financial accounts. He could make decisions about your housing. He could even make medical decisions depending on what the judge grants. And Berkeley, once he has temporary control, he'll use that time to hide assets, sell your house, drain anything he can find." I felt the trap closing around me. My plan to expose Travis was being crushed by his counterattack. He was smarter than I'd given him credit for, more ruthless. "We'll fight it," Paula promised. "We'll expose the fraudulent affidavits. We'll present your evidence. We'll show the judge who Travis really is." But she didn't sound confident, and I didn't feel confident. I felt like I'd underestimated my enemy. Engineers don't like surprises. We plan for every stress factor, every load calculation, every potential point of failure. I'd failed to calculate for my son's complete lack of conscience. Friday arrived too fast. I put on my best suit, the navy one Margaret had bought me for our 40th wedding anniversary. My hands shook while knotting my tie. Paula picked me up at 9 in the morning. The hearing was at 2 in the afternoon. "We need to be prepared for anything," Paula said as we drove to the courthouse. "Travis has shown he's willing to lie under oath. There's no telling what else he might pull." The county probate courthouse was a gray stone building that looked more like a prison than a place of justice. We went through security, climbed 2 flights of stairs, and waited on a hard wooden bench outside courtroom C. Travis arrived at 1:30 with Pemberton, his attorney. Amber was there too, dressed in a conservative black dress that was probably the most modest thing she owned. She'd done her makeup to look concerned and sad. They didn't acknowledge me. At precisely 2 o'clock, we were called into the courtroom. Judge Patricia Holland presided, a stern woman in her early 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd been on the bench for 23 years, according to Paula's research. Fair but no nonsense. "We'll hear the petition for emergency temporary guardianship," Judge Holland said. "Mr. Pemberton, you're representing the petitioner." "Yes, Your Honor." Pemberton stood, smooth and confident. "We're seeking emergency temporary guardianship due to Mr. Berkeley's demonstrated inability to manage his financial affairs. As outlined in our filing, he recently fell victim to a telephone scam and lost his entire life savings, approximately $95,000. Paula stood immediately. "Your Honor, we're contesting this petition. The 3 affidavits submitted by the petitioner are fraudulent. We've contacted all 3 individuals named, and they categorically deny making these statements." Judge Holland's eyebrows rose. "That's a serious accusation, Miss Brennan, and we have proof, Your Honor." Paula handed over our documentation. Recorded statements from each affiant. Written confirmations that they never made these claims about Mr. Berkeley's mental state. The judge reviewed the documents, her expression darkening. "Mr. Pemberton, how do you respond?" Pemberton looked genuinely surprised, which meant Travis hadn't told his own attorney about the fabricated evidence. "Your Honor, these affidavits were provided to our office by Mr. Travis Berkeley. They were prepared in good faith, based on his direct reports of his father's declining condition." "In good faith?" Paula's voice was sharp. "These are sworn statements with forged signatures. That's perjury, Your Honor, and it demonstrates exactly the kind of manipulation and deception Mr. Travis Berkeley has been perpetrating against his father." Judge Holland held up her hand. "I'm troubled by these affidavits, very troubled. However, Miss Brennan, we still have the underlying issue. Mr. Pemberton, did your client's father actually lose money to a scam?" Pemberton looked at Travis, who nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Berkeley admits he gave $95,000 to a telephone scammer. That demonstrates impaired judgment regardless of the affidavit's validity." The judge turned to me. "Mr. Berkeley, is that true? Did you lose money to a scam?" This was the moment. The trap I'd built for myself. If I admitted the scam was fake, I'd look manipulative. If I maintained it was real, I'd look incompetent. I chose truth, Your Honor. I stood, my voice steady. I didn't give money to a scammer. I moved my assets to protect them from my son's theft. The courtroom went silent. Travis's face flushed red. Pemberton looked like he'd been slapped. Even Paula seemed surprised by my directness. Judge Holland leaned forward. "Explain." "Over the past 2 years," I said, "my son has systematically stolen from me. I have documentation of unauthorized withdrawals totaling $78,000. I have recordings of him demanding money. I have evidence that he's been financially exploiting me since my wife died. So I moved my money to accounts he couldn't access. I staged the scam story to see how he'd react, and he reacted by trying to take legal control of my life." Pemberton jumped in immediately. "Your Honor, this admission demonstrates exactly the impaired judgment we're concerned about. Mr. Berkeley admits to deception, to hiding assets, to elaborate manipulation. This is not the behavior of a mentally competent individual managing his affairs responsibly." "Or," Paula countered, "it's the behavior of a competent individual protecting himself from financial abuse by his own son." Judge Holland studied both of us. The tension in the courtroom was thick enough to cut. I could see her weighing options, considering precedents, trying to balance protection with autonomy. Finally, she spoke. This is an unusual situation, Mr. Berkeley. I appreciate your honesty, but Miss Brennan, your client's admitted deception complicates matters. I'm concerned about both issues. The potential elder abuse by the son, and the father's unusual decision to fabricate a scam story. She paused, looking at the fraudulent affidavits again. However, I'm more immediately concerned about these forged documents. Mr. Pemberton, your client submitted sworn statements that are demonstrably false. That's a serious matter. Your Honor, Paula said, we're asking that you dismiss this petition entirely and grant a restraining order against Travis Berkeley. Judge Holland shook her head. I'm not comfortable doing either at this point. We need more information. Here's my ruling. I'm granting temporary limited guardianship of financial affairs only to Travis Berkeley for 60 days, pending a full investigation by Adult Protective Services. Mr. Berkeley retains all personal autonomy. He can live where he chooses, make his own medical decisions, and manage his own daily life. But financial matters will be overseen by his son during the investigation period. No, Paula objected. Your Honor, that's exactly what he wants. He'll use that access to steal everything. The judge's voice was firm. My decision stands. Mr. Travis Berkeley, you will provide detailed accounting of all financial transactions. You will not sell any property or make any major financial decisions without court approval. This is oversight, not carte blanche. We'll reconvene in 60 days for a full hearing. In the meantime, Adult Protective Services will conduct a complete evaluation of both parties. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Paula was already talking, saying we'd appeal, we'd fight this, we'd document everything. But I barely heard her. Travis walked past me as we left the courtroom. His smile was triumphant. Should have just cooperated, Dad, he said quietly. Now I'll find every penny you hid. And it's all legal. That night, I sat in my efficiency apartment and pulled up my bank account on my laptop. The one Travis didn't know about yet. $17,000. That's all I had left that he couldn't touch. For now, my phone rang. It was Paula. Berkeley, I just got an email from Pemberton. Travis has already filed paperwork to access your storage unit. He's claiming he needs to inventory your assets. He's also requested financial records from every bank in the county. How long until he finds my accounts? Days, she said. Maybe a week. The court order gives him authority to search. And the house? Paula was quiet for a moment. He listed it this afternoon. $490,000. He's moving fast. My house. The home where I'd lived for 37 years. Where I'd raised my son. Where Margaret had died in my arms. Listed for sale by that same son like it meant nothing. The 60-day hearing, I said. What are our chances? Honestly? Paula sighed. Not good. Once temporary guardianship is granted, judges are reluctant to reverse it without clear evidence of abuse. And Travis is smart. He'll document everything meticulously during these 60 days. He'll make it look like he's taking excellent care of your finances. So I've lost. Not yet, Paula said, but she didn't sound convincing. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, thinking about Margaret, wondering what she'd say if she could see what our son had become, wondering where we'd gone wrong. My phone buzzed with a notification. The real estate listing for my house was already online. Professional photos of the empty rooms. The description called it a fixer-upper, with great bones. A blank canvas for the right buyer. They were selling my life like it was nothing more than square footage and potential. The next 7 days were a nightmare. I watched helplessly as Travis systematically dismantled everything I'd built over 65 years of life. On Monday, Travis showed up at my storage unit with the court order, a moving truck, and 2 workers. He inventoried everything, took photos, and then held an estate sale right there in the storage facility parking lot. Margaret's antique dining table, that had been her grandmother's, sold for $300. My tools from 40 years of engineering, sold in a box lot for $50. The rocking chair where I'd held Travis as a baby, Sold for $75. I showed up halfway through the sale, unable to stay away. Travis saw me and smiled. Just liquidating assets, Dad. Part of my fiduciary duty as your temporary guardian. Don't worry, I'm keeping detailed records for the court. I watched strangers load my life into their cars and trucks. A young couple bought our bedroom set for $800. They seemed nice, excited about their purchase. They had no idea they were buying pieces of a destroyed family. The estate sale brought in $22,000. Travis deposited it into an account I couldn't access. My money, from my belongings, now under his control. On Wednesday, the house got an offer. $475,000 from a developer who wanted to tear it down and build 2 modern townhouses. Travis accepted immediately. Closing scheduled for 30 days. Paula filed an emergency motion to stop the sale. Judge Holland denied it. As temporary guardian of financial affairs, Travis has the authority to manage and sell assets in Mr. Perubin added, was Berkeley's best interest, the ruling stated. The court will review the sale proceeds at the 60-day hearing. On Thursday, Travis found 2 of my 3 new bank accounts. I don't know how. Maybe he'd hired a forensic accountant. Maybe he'd just systematically called every bank in the county with the court order. Either way, he found them. $78,000. Everything I had except the final $17,000 in an account at a small credit union in a neighboring county. I got the notification on my phone while I was having coffee with Jerry. Account accessed by authorized guardian. My hands shook so badly, I spilled coffee all over the table. Paula, I called her immediately. He found the money. How much? Her voice was tight. $78,000. I heard her sharp intake of breath. File an emergency motion. I'll do it right now. But we both knew it was futile. Travis had legal authority. The judge had given it to him. Everything he was doing was technically legal, even if it was morally monstrous. By Friday, the $78,000 was gone from my accounts and deposited into one jointly held by Travis and Amber. I checked my balance obsessively every hour, watching it drop to zero, feeling my security evaporate. I drove past my house that weekend. There was already a sold sign in the yard. 30 days until closing. 30 days until strangers owned the house where I'd loved Margaret for 37 years. I called Travis. I hadn't spoken to him since the court hearing, but I needed to understand. Why are you doing this? His laugh was cold. Doing what, Dad? Managing your money? That's what you wanted, remember? You said you couldn't handle it yourself. That's not what I said. That's what the court heard. Look, Dad, you should be grateful. I'm making sure you're taken care of. These assets will fund your care for years. What care? I asked. I don't need care. I need my home and my money. You're almost out of money now, Travis said cheerfully. But don't worry. Once the house sells, we'll have plenty. I've been looking at assisted living facilities. There's a nice one across town, very affordable, about $2,800 a month. You'll be comfortable there. $2,800 a month was cheap for assisted living. Suspiciously cheap. I looked it up later. The place Travis had in mind was basically a warehouse for low-income elderly with nowhere else to go. Over-medicated residents. Understaffed. Multiple health code violations. He planned to stick me there and live off the rest of my money for years. The following Monday brought worse news. Paula called, her voice strained. Berkeley, Adult Protective Services completed their evaluation. I just got the report. And? They're recommending full permanent guardianship for Travis. No. The word came out as a gasp. No, that's not possible. Paula read from the report. Subject demonstrates paranoid delusions regarding his son. Subject engaged in financially reckless behavior by hiding assets and fabricating stories. Subject lacks stable housing, moving between friends' residences. Subject would benefit from supervised living arrangements and financial oversight to prevent further self-harm. It was a nightmare, dressed up as professional concern. Every action I'd taken to protect myself had been twisted into evidence of incompetence. The final hearing is in 9 days. Paula said. "Berkeley, I have to be honest with you. Without those recordings we made, without the house, without your money to fight this, I don't think we can win." "The recordings," I said. "The ones Ohio law says are legal because I'm a party to the conversations. The court excluded them pending a separate hearing on whether your alleged diminished capacity affects their admissibility. Travis's attorney argued that your mental state means you couldn't legally consent to recording yourself. It's a stretch, but the judge allowed the argument. So my evidence is locked away. My house is being sold. My money is gone. What do I have left? $17,000 in that last account. Your pension, which Travis can manage but not take directly, and 9 days. 9 days until I lost my freedom, forever. 9 days until Travis had complete control. 9 days until I became a ward of the court, a legal child, powerless and trapped. I thought about Margaret, about the life we'd built, about the son we'd raised and the man he'd become. Where had I failed? What had I done wrong? How does a child learn to destroy his own parents so thoroughly? That night, I sat in Jerry's guest room. He'd insisted I stay with him. I'd refused to burden him further, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. I stared at the ceiling and felt something break inside me. Not my resolve, not my determination, but my hope. Maybe Travis was right. Maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe orchestrating this elaborate plan, staging a fake scam, emptying my house, hiding my money, had all been the actions of someone who wasn't thinking clearly. Maybe I needed a guardian. Maybe I was dangerous to myself. The thoughts circled my brain like vultures, eating away at my confidence, my sense of self. My phone buzzed. A text from Travis. "Looking forward to the hearing, Dad. Everything's almost settled. You'll be taken care of soon, I promise." The casual cruelty of it made me want to vomit. I had 9 days and $17,000. Against my son's legal authority, his willingness to lie under oath, his complete lack of conscience, and a system that had already decided I needed protection from myself. I didn't see how I could win, but Margaret hadn't raised a quitter, and I'd built bridges that still stood strong 40 years later. Structures designed to hold under pressure, to resist forces trying to tear them down. I just needed to figure out how to build one more bridge, one that would hold long enough to get me to the other side of this nightmare. I woke up Tuesday morning in Jerry's guest room with something I hadn't felt in weeks. Clarity. I'd been playing this wrong. I'd been trying to protect my assets while exposing Travis, but I'd underestimated how thoroughly he'd planned his attack. The guardianship trap was brilliant because it turned all my defensive moves into evidence against me. But I'd been an engineer for 40 years. I knew how to solve complex problems. You don't fight a force head-on when it's stronger than you. You redirect it. Use its own momentum against it. I called Paula at 8 o'clock that morning. "I need to tell you what we're really going to do." "Berkeley," she said cautiously, "we've been over this. The hearing is in 8 days, without solid evidence. I have evidence. Better than what Travis has seen. Better than what I've shown you." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm listening." 3 months ago, I explained, I didn't just start recording Travis. I did something else. Something more permanent. I told her about the video testimony. 3 hours of recorded statements, made in the presence of my primary care physician, Dr. Raymond Foster, and witnessed by Paula's law partner, Marcus Chen, who I'd consulted before hiring Paula herself. The video showed me discussing complex engineering concepts, solving mathematical problems, recounting detailed memories with perfect accuracy. Dr. Foster administered a cognitive assessment that I passed with flying colors. The whole thing was notarized and time-stamped. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Paula demanded. "Because I needed to see how far Travis would go. I needed him to commit to his lies, to file fraudulent documents, to show the court his true character. If I'd played all my cards too early, he would have retreated and come at me a different way. Now he's committed. He's told lies under oath. He's fabricated evidence. He's shown exactly who he is." "Okay," Paula said slowly. The video testimony is good, really good. But it's not enough. Travis can argue your condition has declined since then. There's more, I said. I hired a forensic accountant 3 months ago. Her name is Diana Wu. She's been tracking every transaction, every withdrawal, every dollar Travis has taken. She's documented his spending patterns, showing that money taken from my accounts went directly to luxury purchases, not elder care. She can show the court that Travis spent $43,000 in the past 10 days alone. On what? I pulled out the report Diana had emailed me that morning. I'd paid her a retainer of $5,000 from my hidden account, and she'd been worth every penny. $35,000 in cash withdrawals, suspicious and untraceable. $8,000 on a new watch, designer clothes, jewelry for Amber, and restaurant bills that would feed a family of 4 for 6 months. Plus, Travis is behind on his mortgage, his car payment, and has $73,000 in credit card debt. He's broke, Paula. Desperate. That's why he's doing this. This is good, Paula said, and I could hear the excitement building in her voice. This changes things, but why wait until now? Because there's more, I said. And this is the part you're not going to believe. I told her about the private investigator. His name was Lawrence Parker, and Diane, my sister-in-law, had hired him on my behalf, using $10,000 from my hidden $17,000. Lawrence had been following Travis and Amber for 6 weeks. What did he find? Everything, I said. Travis has a girlfriend named Crystal Martinez. She's 32, works as a bartender, and has warrants for check fraud in Nevada and identity theft in Arizona. Travis has been seeing her for 6 months. He's been giving her money, lots of it. That $35,000 in cash withdrawals? Lawrence tracked Travis meeting Crystal at a casino. He gave her the money for what she called a business investment opportunity. It's a scam, obviously, but Travis is too blinded by infatuation to see it. Jesus, Paula breathed. Does Amber know? Oh, Amber knows. Lawrence documented her meeting with a divorce attorney 2 weeks ago. She's planning to file for divorce the moment Travis gets permanent guardianship. She'll take half of everything, including my money that Travis stole. Then she'll disappear with her share. Paula was quiet, processing. This is explosive. But Berkeley, why not use this earlier? Before the temporary guardianship? Because I needed Travis to feel confident, to get sloppy, to spend the money in ways that prove he was never protecting me. Every dollar he's spent in the past 10 days is another nail in his coffin. And there's one more thing. What? Lawrence discovered Travis has been using my identity to open credit cards. 4 different cards. $87,000 in debt. That's identity theft. That's a federal crime. Now Paula was excited. Okay, this is good. This is really good. We can present all of this at the hearing. Show the judge that Travis is a criminal, not a concerned son. We can get the guardianship revoked and file criminal charges. Not yet, I said. What do you mean, not yet? Berkeley, we have 8 days. I know. But if we present all this now, Travis will lawyer up differently. He'll claim he was trying to help me, that the credit cards were a misunderstanding, that Crystal means nothing. He'll spin it. What we need is for him to hang himself completely. We need him to feel so confident that he makes a mistake he can't walk back from. What kind of mistake? I need him to admit his intentions on the record. I need him to confess to someone official that this is all about the money and not my welfare. Paula was skeptical. He's too smart for that. He won't just confess. He will if he thinks he's already won. If he thinks I'm completely defeated and there's no threat, that's when people get careless. We spent the next 3 hours planning. Paula would file a motion requesting a private meeting with Judge Holland before the final hearing. We'd present just enough evidence to make the judge curious, but not enough to tip off Travis. We'd let Travis think he was still in control while we built the trap. That afternoon, I made a decision that terrified me. I called Travis. Son, I said when he answered, you win. I'll sign whatever you want. There was a pause. Really? I'm tired, Travis. Tired of fighting. tired of being alone. You're right. I can't manage my own affairs anymore. If you want guardianship, I won't contest it anymore." I could almost hear his smile through the phone. "That's good, Dad. That's really good. You're making the right choice." "There's just one thing," I said. "I want to talk. Just you and me. No lawyers. Father and son. I need to understand why. Can you do that for me?" Travis agreed immediately. Too immediately. He thought I was giving up, which meant he thought he could be generous. We arranged to meet the next day at a park near my old house. After I hung up, Jerry came into the room. He'd been listening. "Berkeley, are you sure about this?" "No," I admitted. "But it's the only way." That night, I barely slept again. But this time it wasn't from despair. It was from anticipation and fear. Because everything depended on what happened in the next few days. I thought about Margaret again. Remembered something she used to say, "The truth always comes out eventually. Sometimes you just have to be patient enough to wait for it." I'd been patient for 6 months. I could be patient for 8 more days. I arrived at the park 15 minutes early. It was a cold morning in late October, the kind of crisp autumn day Margaret had loved. Leaves scattered across the grass in shades of orange and brown. Children played on the swings in the distance, their laughter carrying on the wind. I sat on a bench and waited. In my jacket pocket was a small digital recorder, freshly purchased. In my car, 200 feet away, Jerry sat with another recording device and a long-range microphone he'd borrowed from a friend who did nature documentaries. We were taking no chances. Travis arrived exactly on time. He walked across the grass with his hands in his pockets, looking relaxed and confident. He sat beside me on the bench and actually put his arm around my shoulders. The gesture made my skin crawl. "Thanks for coming, Dad," he said. "I know this hasn't been easy for you." "I need to understand," I said quietly. "Why? Why are you doing this to me?" Travis sighed like this was a difficult conversation he'd been dreading. "Dad, you're not seeing things clearly. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm helping you. You lost your money to a scam. You need someone to manage things before you hurt yourself worse." "The money wasn't lost to a scam," I said. "You know that." He pulled his arm back. "Dad, don't start with the paranoid accusations again. That's exactly why you need a guardian." "I'm your father," I said. And for the first time, I let real emotion into my voice. "I changed your diapers. I taught you to ride a bike. I paid for your college. I helped you with your down payment on your house. I loved you. How did we get here?" For just a moment, something flickered across Travis's face. Guilt, maybe. Or regret. But it was gone so fast I might have imagined it. "Life's expensive, Dad. You don't understand how hard it is out there. Amber and I are drowning in bills. I'm working 60 hours a week and we're still broke. Meanwhile, you're sitting on $500,000 in assets, living alone in a big house you don't need. It's not fair." "So this is about fairness?" "It's about reality," Travis said, his voice hardening. "You're old. You don't need all that money. You're going to die in a few years anyway. Why should it just sit there when we need it now?" I felt like I'd been slapped. "You're waiting for me to die?" "Don't be dramatic," Travis said. "I'm being practical. Look, once I have guardianship, I can manage everything properly. Sell the house, invest the money, make sure it lasts. And yeah, some of it will go to taking care of Amber and me. We've earned it, dealing with all your problems. My problems that you created by stealing from me." "I didn't steal anything." Travis's voice rose, then he checked himself, looked around to make sure no one was nearby. "I borrowed money. I managed your accounts. You gave me permission. I gave you permission to help me, not rob me." Travis stood up, started pacing. "You know what your problem is, Dad? You're selfish. Always have been. You and Mom, always so careful with money, never wanting to help when I really needed it. Remember when I wanted to start that business? You said no, said it was too risky. I could have been rich if you'd backed me." "That business was a multi-level marketing scheme," I said. "It was a scam. I was protecting you. See? Travis wheeled on me. That's exactly the attitude I'm talking about. You always thought you knew better than me. Always judged my decisions. Well, now I'm in control. And I'm making the decisions. This was it. The moment I needed. I pushed harder. And what decisions are you making, son? What are you going to do with my money once you have complete control? Travis's eyes gleamed. I already told you. Sell the house. That's $500,000. Put you in assisted living. That's $33,000 a year. You've got maybe 10 years left, probably less. So that's $330,000 for your care. The rest is mine. $200,000. Free and clear. And the money you already took? The $78,000? Already spent, Travis said casually. Well, invested. I'm putting it into opportunities. Building our future. Opportunities like Crystal? Travis froze. The blood drained from his face. How do you know about Crystal? I'm not as senile as you think, I said quietly. I know you're having an affair. I know you gave her $35,000. I know she's scamming you just like you think you're scamming me. You had someone following me? Travis's voice was dangerous now. You're crazier than I thought. I had someone documenting the truth. Just like I'm documenting this conversation. Travis's eyes went to my jacket pocket. Without warning, he lunged forward and grabbed me, his hands fumbling for the recorder. We struggled. He was stronger than me, 38 to my 65. But I held on. Give me that, he shouted. Get off me. I pushed him hard. He stumbled back. That's assault, Dad. I can have you committed for that. You're violent, dangerous. And that's when Jerry came running from the car, his phone already up and recording video. Hey, he shouted. Get away from him. Travis backed off immediately, realizing he'd been caught. Who the hell is that? A witness, I said, catching my breath. To you physically attacking me. To you admitting you're stealing my money. To everything. Travis's face cycled through emotions. Rage, fear, calculation. Then he smiled. It was a terrible smile. Doesn't matter. You can't use any of this. You're mentally incompetent, remember? The court said so. Any recordings you make are inadmissible. You already tried this and lost. The court said temporary guardianship. I corrected. Not incompetence. And I didn't make this recording. Jerry did. He's a competent adult with no mental health issues. His recordings are completely admissible. Travis looked at Jerry, then back at me. His confidence cracked. You set me up. I protected myself. There's a difference. This won't change anything, Travis said, but his voice shook. I'm still getting guardianship. The hearing's in 6 days. You can't stop it. Watch me, I said. Travis turned and walked away, nearly running across the grass to his car. He peeled out of the parking lot fast enough to leave rubber marks on the asphalt. Jerry came over to me. You okay? I'm perfect, I said. Did you get everything? Every word. He held up his phone. Crystal clear audio and video. Berkeley, you did it. Not yet, I said, but we're close. That afternoon, Paula filed an emergency motion with the court. We attached Jerry's recording, the forensic accountant's report, the private investigator's findings, and a request for an immediate hearing to address new evidence of fraud and elder abuse. Judge Holland granted the emergency hearing for Friday afternoon. 2 days before the scheduled final guardianship hearing, Travis called me that night. His voice was cold and controlled. You're making a big mistake, Dad. The only mistake I made was trusting you. I'm still your son. You can still stop this. Drop the motion. Accept the guardianship. I'll make sure you're comfortable. In a cheap nursing home while you spend my money? No thanks. You'll regret this, Travis said. I promise you that. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in Jerry's living room, staring at my phone. Part of me, a small part, still hoped Travis would apologize, would realize what he'd done, and ask for forgiveness. Would become the son I'd thought I'd raised. But that son, if he'd ever existed, was gone. In his place was a stranger wearing my child's face, motivated only by greed and entitlement. Margaret would have been heartbroken, but she also would have been proud of me for standing up, for fighting back, for refusing to be a victim. 2 more days, I thought. 2 more days until truth faced off against lies in a courtroom. And I finally believed, after weeks of doubt and fear, that I might actually win. Friday afternoon arrived bright and cold. I wore the same navy suit I'd worn to the first hearing. Paula met me at the courthouse steps, her arms full of folders and her expression grimly satisfied. "We've got him," she said. "Everything's documented. Every lie, every theft, every fraud. Travis is finished." Inside courtroom C, the atmosphere was electric. Travis sat with Pemberton, who looked distinctly uncomfortable. He'd clearly been briefed on the new evidence, and realized his client had lied to him throughout the case. Amber sat in the back row, as far from Travis as possible without leaving the room. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Judge Holland took the bench at exactly 2 o'clock. Her expression was stern as she reviewed the files in front of her. "Mr. Pemberton," she said without preamble, "I've reviewed the emergency motion and accompanying evidence. Do you wish to withdraw your petition for guardianship?" Pemberton stood. "Your Honor, I need to consult with my client privately." "No," Judge Holland said sharply. "You've had 2 days to consult. This hearing is about justice, not legal maneuvering. I'm going to hear from Mr. Berkeley first. Sir, you may present your evidence." Paula stood and methodically walked the court through everything. The video testimony showing my cognitive capacity 3 months ago. Dr. Foster's assessment confirming I had no signs of dementia or incompetence. The forensic accountant's report detailing $78,000 in unauthorized withdrawals by Travis over 2 years. Diana Wu took the stand and explained how she'd tracked every dollar, showing Travis had spent the money on luxury items, casino gambling, and cash payments to Crystal Martinez. Then came Lawrence Parker, the private investigator. He testified about Travis's affair with Crystal, about the warrants for her arrest in 2 states, about the $35,000 cash payment he'd witnessed at the casino. He presented photos, timestamps, video footage. Then Paula presented the identity theft evidence. 4 credit cards opened in my name, without my knowledge or consent. $87,000 in fraudulent charges. The credit card companies had already confirmed the signatures on the applications didn't match mine. They'd been forged. Finally, Jerry took the stand. He played the recording from the park. The judge listened in silence as Travis's voice filled the courtroom. "You're old. You don't need all that money. You're going to die in a few years anyway. Why should it just sit there when we need it now? Sell the house. Put you in assisted living. You've got maybe 10 years left. The rest is mine. $200,000, free and clear. Already spent. Well, invested. I'm putting it into opportunities." When the recording ended, Judge Holland's face was like stone. "Mr. Pemberton, does your client wish to respond to any of this evidence?" Travis leaned over and whispered urgently to Pemberton. The attorney shook his head, whispered back. Travis's face went red, then white. Finally, Pemberton stood. "Your Honor, my client declines to testify at this time." "Very well," Judge Holland said. "I don't need to hear more. Here is my ruling." She looked directly at Travis. "Mr. Travis Berkeley, your petition for guardianship is denied with prejudice. That means you can never file for guardianship of your father again. The temporary guardianship granted at the previous hearing is hereby immediately revoked. You will return all funds, assets, and property to your father within 24 hours. You will have no further access to his financial accounts, his property, or his personal information. Furthermore, I am issuing a restraining order. You are not to contact your father directly or indirectly. You are not to come within 500 feet of him. This order is permanent, unless modified by this court. Additionally, I am ordering you to pay your father's attorney fees in full. That sum currently totals $48,000. Finally, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. You have committed identity theft, elder financial abuse, fraud, and perjury. You will face criminal charges for these acts." Travis sat frozen, his face ashen. Amber got up quietly and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. "Regarding the house sale," Judge Holland continued, "that transaction is hereby nullified. The house remains your father's property. Any proceeds already disbursed will be returned." She turned to me. "Mr. Berkeley, I apologize on behalf of this court. The temporary guardianship should never have been granted. Your actions to protect yourself were reasonable given your son's predatory behavior. You are clearly competent, intelligent, and fully capable of managing your own affairs." "Thank you, Your Honor," I managed to say. "Court is adjourned." She banged her gavel. Travis finally moved. He stood up, looked at me across the courtroom, and said, "I'm still your son." "No," I said quietly. "You're not. Not anymore." He left with Pemberton. I never saw him again. The following weeks brought more closure. The district attorney filed charges: 3 counts of identity theft, 2 counts of elder financial abuse, 4 counts of fraud, and 2 counts of perjury. The evidence was overwhelming. Travis's attorney negotiated a plea deal: 15 years in prison, with possibility of parole after 10. During the investigation, they discovered Travis had done this before. 2 other elderly individuals, both clients from his sales job, had been victimized. He'd gained their trust and stolen a combined $97,000. Both victims were now deceased, which is why Travis had thought he'd gotten away with it. Crystal Martinez was arrested trying to board a plane to Mexico with $73,000 in cash. Most of it was Travis's money, my money. She faced her own charges and was extradited to Nevada for the outstanding warrants. Amber filed for divorce, while Travis was awaiting trial. She testified against him in exchange for immunity from prosecution as an accessory. She knew about the theft, the recordings revealed, but claimed she'd been afraid to speak up. I don't know if that's true. I don't much care. The house sale was indeed nullified. I got my home back. The storage company still had most of my furniture, which I'd paid for a year in advance. I moved everything back in over a long weekend with Jerry's help and the help of 2 other old colleagues from my engineering days. The financial recovery took longer. The $78,000 Travis had stolen was eventually recovered from various accounts and assets. The court ordered full restitution. I got back $93,000 of my original $95,000. Close enough. The credit card fraud took months to resolve, but the companies eventually cleared the debt from my name and pursued Travis for restitution. I ended up better off financially than I'd been before this nightmare started. Travis's attorney fees alone added $48,000 to my accounts. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was freedom, dignity, the knowledge that I'd stood up for myself when it mattered most. 6 months after the trial, I was sitting on my front porch, watching the sun set over the neighborhood where I'd lived for 37 years. The house was mine again. My money was secure. My life was my own. I thought about Travis sometimes. Wondered if prison would change him. Doubted it. Some people are broken in ways that can't be fixed. I'd spent years blaming myself, wondering what Margaret and I had done wrong in raising him. Our therapist I'd started seeing helped me understand it wasn't our failure. Some people make choices that have nothing to do with how they were raised. Travis chose greed over love. He chose selfishness over family. Those were his choices, not mine. I learned things through this ordeal. Painful things. Important things. I learned that being a father doesn't mean being a victim. Love doesn't require you to accept abuse. Family relationships are built on mutual respect and care. And when those foundations crumble, sometimes the relationship has to end. I learned that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's acknowledging that your life has value. Your dignity matters. Your rights deserve protection. I learned that the justice system, for all its flaws, can work, but only if you fight for it. Only if you document, prepare, and refuse to give up. Justice doesn't come to those who wait passively. It comes to those who actively pursue it. Most importantly, I learned that 65 isn't too old to start over, to rebuild, to reclaim your life from those who tried to take it away. I volunteer now with Adult Protective Services. I talk to other elderly people who've experienced financial abuse from family members. I help them understand they're not alone, that it's not their fault, that they can fight back and win. I joined a support group for parents of adult children who've exploited them. The stories I heard there broke my heart. I wasn't alone. This happened more often than anyone wanted to admit. We helped each other heal, share strategies, remember that we had value beyond our bank accounts. Travis wrote to me from prison about 4 months ago. A long letter asking for forgiveness, claiming he'd found God, saying he finally understood what he'd done wrong. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe it was manipulation. I couldn't tell anymore, and I realized I didn't care. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I will, but not today, not this year, maybe not ever. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not for the person who wronged you. And I'm not ready yet. Maybe I never will be. But I am at peace. Real, genuine peace. For the first time since Margaret died, I feel whole again. Not happy, exactly. I still miss her every day. But whole, complete, myself. I stand on my front porch, looking at the setting sun, and I think about everything I've been through. The fear, the betrayal, the fight, the victory. And I realize I'm proud of myself. Proud that I didn't give up. Proud that I stood my ground. Proud that I survived. Margaret would have been proud too. I can almost hear her voice. You did good, Berkeley. You did real good. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Before I go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you loved? Someone who betrayed your trust? How did you find the courage to fight back? And if you're going through something like this now, what's holding you back from taking that first step to protect yourself? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find the strength they need. If this story resonated with you, helped you, or made you think, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding the strength to overcome them. And share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who might be facing their own battle and needs to know they're not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you find the courage to stand up for yourself when you need it most. I hope you surround yourself with people who value you for who you are, not what you have. And I hope you never have to learn these lessons the hard way like I did. Take care of yourselves out there. You're worth fighting for.